Michael McNamara.
Well, look, I want to welcome the Minister to the House and to say that I agree with everything he said and I agree with everything that Senator O'Reilly has said. I was listening this morning to our colleague Senator Black and she recited a poem which was written by a young woman in Gaza. And as I listened to it, and when she got to the point of being given 56 seconds or whatever it is to get out of your home and to leave everything behind, I was reminded of my wife's grandfather, Joe Brennan, a founding senator of the Senate, reconstituted Senate in 1937, who was given a similar notice by the commanding officer of the British forces based in Buttevant as part of martial law. His house was blown up with an hour's notice in 1921. And it struck me, listening to that account given today, that Senator Black's poem dealt with somebody who got out of their house. And you have to look at the parents of these children who didn't escape. You have to look at the hatred that is being stored up when you consider all of these things. You know, people talk about sowing the wind and reaping the whirlwind. This must stop. This cycle must stop. I speak here as somebody who, like Senator Black, is a member of the European Parliamentarians for Israeli-Palestinian Equality. And it's a network of people across European parliaments and in the European Parliament itself who are trying to call a halt effectively to the annexation of the West Bank and its de facto absorption into a greater Israel. I also speak here as somebody who, as Minister for Justice, on behalf of the Irish people, for the first time apologised for what happened in the late 1930s and indeed in the 1940s in respect of Jewish refugees, and initiated the state funding of the Holocaust Memorial Day and the state funding for the Holocaust Educational Trust. I've spent a lot of my time studying the Holocaust, and nobody needs to impress upon me the enormity of that. And this, the 80th year of the Babi Yar Ravine massacres, brings back to us that the Jewish people have been the subject of terrible, terrible wrongs. But two wrongs never make a right, and I'm not going to compare what is going on now with what went on then. But I do say that Gaza is a living hell, and it's something which must come to an end. And I do say that tolerating or inciting provocative marches through East Jerusalem at the end of Ramadan is comparable in some respects to what Oswald Mosley was doing in the East End of London in the 1930s. Provocative marches designed to inflame and to stir up hatred. Another thing I want to say is that those of us who believe in justice for the Palestinian people in no sense deny the right of Israel to exist or to defend itself, and I condemn absolutely those people in Iran and elsewhere who talk about the destruction of the state of Israel. I condemn that absolutely. But I want to say this as well, that our opposition to what is happening, not just this week, not just last week, but for years and years in Gaza, is based on a sense of human rights and decency and is not in any sense based on an anti-Israeli point of view. I object to the efforts of some people on the right wing of Israeli politics to set a definition of anti-Semitism which somehow prevents me from articulating my opposition to what is happening in the West Bank and effectively puts resistance to the extreme right of Zionism into the category of implied anti-Semitism. Nobody can lecture me on anti-Semitism. I have done what any minister in Ireland could ever possibly do to assist in bringing Irish people to a recognition of the wrongs that Irish society did to the Jews and to their duty to uphold the rights of Jews. And I reiterate again Eamon de Valera's great step in bringing the recognition of the Jewish population into our constitution. That was something which this state did when nobody else was willing to do it. But I want to say this in closing. we must protest. We must object to what's happening. We must defend the rights of children, be they Israeli children, Israeli Arab children, Palestinian Arab children, wherever they are. We must also protect the rights of individual citizens. And going back to, and I'll finish on this point, going back to Senator Black's poem today, it evoked in me a strong feeling of revulsion and of pity. And this House must stand with all the other assemblies in Europe, parliamentary assemblies, which have stated that this must come to an end, the cycle must end, and we must stand up for what we believe and not be afraid to stand up for what we believe in. Thank you.
Anish.